Hello, my Facebook family. I'm here again to do part two of the money rules of the world and it has control of our minds. This is part two. Like I said, that this is the most informative video that I've posted out of all the videos I posted. All my videos are to bless you. All my videos are good. Some people aren't going to receive it, which is, we know this. And some are. And the ones that I do reach with, I give God the glory, and you need to give God the glory as well, and continue to seek God and let God show you the rest. Because I'm only, like I said, I only give you a foundation to build from. I want to give you a reason to seek God and seek the information so you'll know how to live in this world. Because this world is demonic. This whole world is demonic, and we have to live in it. But that's the purpose of God saying pray without ceasing. And I'm going to get into that in this video too. Now, as far as scriptures, probably won't be as many because all the scriptures that's related to these parts are in the first part, in part one. So if you haven't seen part one, I would suggest you go back and look at it because it's, like I said, it's some very informative. It's very informative in your walk with Christ for those who are serious about walking with Christ instead of just being lukewarm. These are for the people that are serious, that take God serious. So with that being said, in part one of my video, I'm gonna do a little recap. I was basically talking about who runs this world. And like I said, money runs the world, and the people that are running the world with their money are unseen. These people are unseen, and I mentioned these families. I mentioned the Vanderbilts, the Rockefellers, the Astors, J.P. Morgan, Andrew Carnegie. And I spent most of the video talking about Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan, and Andrew Carnegie. I said that the Vanderbilts, the Astors, those families are a video of their own, so I wasn't going to get deep into them. But I will give you guys a little background on the Astor family because his background is in relation to this video. It gives you a better understanding of why this world has been laid out the way it's been laid out. Not saying that it's just him, but he was the start of it. So, like I said in the first video, I was saying how Rockefeller and Carnegie controls the education system, and all the families run the government. I broke down on the money, how the the government borrows money from them. Those rich men that also were the founder of the Federal Reserve Bank. They're the feds, So I broke down a little bit. I broke down that. So like I said, if you haven't seen it, please go back and watch it. It'll be get a good foundation and give you an understanding on this one. So in this part, I'm going to talk about the Astor family, John Jacob Astor. Now, John Jacob Astor, of course, he had siblings and all of them. He had a lot of careers. He did a lot of helping out his brothers and stuff in careers, and he didn't like any of the careers, so he went into his own thing, and he did what you call the fur trade. He came up with the furs. And when he came up with trading furs, he began trading his furs with the local Native Americans, the American tribes, and then when a commercial treaty began with the U.S. and Great Britain, he took advantage of that and opened up his own. He started exporting his furs to Canada. So I want you to remember this one. So that's where he premiered his companies. And by the end of the decade, his his company was worth like $250,000, which in today's money is $5 million, because this was in the 1700s. This was in the late 1700s. So by 1800s, he then had started expanding his fur trade to China and Europe and other countries. But during the War of 1812, he panicked. So instead of risking losing money from his fur trade because of the war, he decided to sell his company as well as his holdings to a Canadian-based company, and which was a smart move. But he wanted his fur company back. So what he do next? He went to the U.S. government to help him get his company back. Well, get back his fur trade. Now, how in the world he able to go to the U.S. government? Because, like I said, that family ran the country. So he lobbied the U.S. Congress for a series because he wanted the bill, the protectionist legislative bill, and it's designed to prevent a repeat of financial losses. So Congress passed the bill. They passed the bill in 1816, and it was barring non-U.S. citizens from from owning businesses in U.S. territory. See what I'm saying? So keep in mind that he sold his company to a Canadian-based company, and so when that bill was passed, that non-U.S. citizens couldn't own a company on U.S. territory, that forced that Canadian company to sell all their holdings to Astor. Basically, he got his stuff back. See how the government helped him? And so for the next six years, he always used the U.S. government to get him out of stuff. So they looked out for him again and voted to close all trading posts operated by foreign governments. So now his fur trade became what we call, again, like I said in my first video with Rockefeller, a monopoly. He had no competition. It was his fur trade. So of course he controlled the U.S. government. And so by him controlling the U.S. government, he took advantage of it. So he kind of turned his attention away from the fur trade. And this time he decided to purchase 10 tons of opium from the Ottoman Empire. Now, I used to always hear a lot of people agree with this, that the U.S. government is who float these drugs over here, and that is correct. Because Thomas Jefferson was the reason why Astor was able to get those drugs over here. Now, John Jacob Astor had ships where he transported his fur, but he used that to transport his opium to China. Because China, they banned drugs, opium and all that 17 years prior to him doing these things, but he still somehow managed to get his opium transported to China. Why? Because Thomas Jefferson made sure they didn't check his ships, made sure that he was able to have a smooth transport. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. The government, it helping him. So that is how those drugs got over here. And they transported 10 tons of opium from the Ottoman Empire. Ottoman Empire which is now Turkey. But the thing about it is he didn't do it long. You know what I mean? He just abruptly stopped transporting drugs. But it didn't stop the rest of the Americans from transporting the drugs. And one of the main people that transported, that got involved in this business, all the families got involved in this business. But now we have Franklin D. Roosevelt's granddad. And I've mentioned Franklin D. Roosevelt in my numerology video. See, all them link. All these cats are Freemasons. Thomas Jefferson was a Freemason. Everybody that's involved with all these things are Masons. And like I said, Satan runs this world, and Masons is basically a satanic cult that some people just refuse to believe because half of them as Masons or half of them in fraternity and sorority, but we're not going to get into that. But that is how the drugs got over here. Now, I talked about the people that's behind the scenes that's running this world, and I told you I was going to get back. They are the puppeteers. So I told you I was going to get back to who are the puppets. The puppets are the next level of rich people. Like I said, the Bill Gates and all these people that's rich, but not Rockefeller and Carnegie. Their family rich, but they're rich. So these are the puppets. So they running the stuff now, but they're getting their word from them. So we're going to talk about the music industry. And the reason why I'm discussing the music industry, because it's like I said in my prior video, Satan ran the music in heaven. So, of course, when he got kicked out of heaven, he was going to run the music here. As long as that music keeps everybody away from Christ, away from God, away from the Bible. So, let me get it in this. Why y'all sitting up here, why people sitting up here, people done floated these drugs over here, okay? And all these black people, they see the thing about these drugs, they won't trying to aim these drugs at black people. They didn't care who sold it, as long as the money flowed. It's just that we are the weakest links. Our minds are the weakest. So we made them the most money. And that's why they made sure our black neighborhoods were the one that got the most drugs. And y'all, and these drug dealers come up with all these little excuses on why they got involved in these selling drugs. Oh, I got to feed my daughter. Oh, I got to feed my family and all that and this, that, and third. We got to eat. What your family eating on? 24-inch rims and Jordans? Because, I mean, y'all went beyond feeding the family. Y'all want to become kingpins. You know what I mean? And then using it as an excuse, I got to feed my family. I mean, if you really was trying to feed your family, then why didn't you just sell enough just to feed your family? Y'all selling enough to build empires off illegal drugs. And you're blaming the white man. The white man brought it over here. Yeah, the white man floated over here. He ain't put no gun in your head to tell you to get it. But your mind, Satan has your mind. He made that money look good. And y'all wanted to be big-time drug dealers. That's why a lot of the rappers that we have now speak on them being drug dealers before they became rappers. Now pay attention. Most of our rappers were drug dealers first, and a lot of them a lot of them did become, when the ones that became rappers after selling drugs, some of them really didn't want to sell drugs the rest of their life. Some of them did use those drugs to get them where they are now. But you got to pay attention. That's why they planted them here. And that's why they made sure we got a hold to them. Because they knew we was going to be selling it the most. We was going to make them the most money. And if you look at that show Snowfall, the CIA, the government was providing the drugs to them. Look at the money he was on. This is a true story. But the background I gave you with Astor and those families, they were the start of it. He was pushing drugs in 1800s. That's when these drugs started. And so, this thing with Astor started in the late 1700s, beginning of the 1800s. So this stuff has been going on for centuries. So, and we just upgraded it and do more things with it, and then you want to blame the white man for, but ain't nobody put no gun to your head to tell you to do it. You know what I mean? We greedy. We want the money. And that's the sad part about it. So when you have so that's why we doing all these things, selling these drugs, they want more money. So, and while we sitting up here selling drugs, Satan's sitting up here laughing. This is what Satan is doing. He's sitting back looking like, these are some idiots. Like, they are really getting us paid. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to hook them up and get some record labels going, hook them up, let them rap about them selling these drugs. You know what I mean? Let the kids listen to it so they can grow up wanting to sell drugs. You know what I mean? Make the music. So then they're going to be buying all this music. Then our artists going to be making all this money. And then while my artists making money, we going to still make money because these kids don't come up wanting to hustle. They don't want to be gangbangers and all that. Then we going to make money off them. And then, you know what? I got another idea. Let's have a meeting. And I'm going to show you what this meeting was about. I saw a podcast that was done by Crazy Bone from Bone Thugs-n-Harmony. He has a podcast now. And it was a guy that was in the music industry that made all the decisions in the music industry. He had that meeting that I was, joking, well, not joking about, but telling you about. So here is the clip.
business, and just to give them a forewarning of some of the evil things that has been going on within the music scene and behind the music scenes as well. You know,
Word.
so getting right down to the issue at hand, I just want to say to all my fellow hip hop artists and hip hop fans that we have been had again.
Damn.
We've been bamboozled,
Hoodwinked.
led astray, I tell you.
All the Malcolm X words.
Once
G.
again, you know what I'm saying? Now, a few of y'all might have already heard about this, about how the music industry has very close ties with the private prison system.
Yeah.
And the reason being is because the music business has invested millions of dollars in the private prison system.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you heard it correctly. Again, the music business and the entertainment business in general, meaning people who control the media, the music industry, and also
Publication.
private prisons.
Yeah, magazines, all that.
Somebody somebody sent me an article, like I think it was like 6 or 7 years ago.
Right.
And I read this article, bro, and I was like absolutely shocked, very shocked.
Talk to us.
In fact, I want to read this this article, but it's actually a letter that was written by somebody that was a decision maker at a major label.
Shot caller.
And he said, you know, he was invited to a very special meeting about the future of hip hop back in 1991.
Okay.
So here's what he said. This is how the events went down at the meeting.
Break it down, man.
Okay, just ride with me, okay? Because I'm reading this. This is real. Hold on, wait. Let me try to.
Way out article too, man. You know what I'm saying? When he told me on telephone about this, wait till y'all hear this, G. You know what I'm saying? It's mesmerizing how these people do. You know what I'm saying? The plans that they got for the down, for how far they will go. You know what I'm saying? To make people, you know, actually slip in society. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so it says, and the title of the letter is "The Secret Meeting That Changed Rap Music and Destroyed a Generation."
Damn.
So it says, hello. After more than 20 years, I finally decided to tell the world what I witnessed in 1991, which I believe was one of the biggest turning points in popular music and ultimately American society. I have struggled for a long time weighing the pros and cons of making my story public, as I was reluctant to implicate the individuals who were present that day. So I've simply decided to leave out the names and all the details that may risk my personal well-being and that of those who were, like me, dragged into something they weren't ready for.
Damn.
Hold on, let me,
So we gonna tell the story.
we gonna tell the story. We ain't scared.
You know what I'm saying? What they gonna do?
They after us, not just playing.
Look, that black van.
So look, so he says, between the late 80s and early 90s, I was what you may call a decision maker with one of the more established companies in the music industry. I came to Europe in the early 80s and quickly established myself in the business. The industry was different back then, since technology and media weren't accessible to people like that, like they are today. The industry had more control over the public and had the means to influence them any way it wanted.
Right.
This may explain why in early 1991, I was invited to attend a closed-door meeting with a small group of business insiders to discuss rap music's new direction. Rap music's new direction.
Yeah.
Little did I know we would be asked to participate in one of the most unethical and destructive business practices ever seen.
Crazy.
So this was the meeting. The meeting was held at a private residence on the outskirts of Los Angeles. I remember about 25 to 30 people were being there.
Right.
Most of them familiar faces. Speaking of those I knew, we joked about the theme of the meeting, as many of us did not care for rap and failed to see the purpose of being invited to a private meeting to discuss the future of hip-hop.
Talk to him.
Among the attendees was a small group of unfamiliar faces who stayed to themselves and made no attempt to socialize beyond their circle. Based on their behavior and formal appearances, they didn't seem to be from our industry. Our casual chatter was interrupted when we were asked to sign the confidentiality agreement, preventing us from publicly discussing the information presented during the meeting. Needless to say, this intrigued, in some cases, disturbed many of us. The agreement was only a page long, but very clear on matters and consequences, which stated that violating the terms would result in job termination immediately. We asked several people what this meeting was about and the reason for such secrecy, but could not find anyone who had the answers for us. A few people refused to sign and walked out. Nobody stopped them. I was tempted to follow, but curiosity got the best of me.
That's right.
A man who was part of the Unfamiliar group collected all the agreements from us. So now it's going to get to the good part because the meeting about to start.
Talk to him, G.
It says, quickly after the meeting began, hold on one second.
Get your popcorn, y'all.
Popcorn, get your pistols. No,
For real, though.
quickly after this meeting began, one of the industry colleagues, who shall remain nameless like everybody else, thanked us for attending. He then gave the floor to a man who only introduced himself by first name and gave no other details about his personal background. I think he was the owner of the residence, but that was never confirmed. He briefly praised all of us for the success we had achieved in our industries and congratulated us for being selected as part of this small group of decision makers. At this point, I began to feel slightly uncomfortable in the strangeness of this gathering. The subject quickly changed as the speaker went on to tell us that the respective companies we represented had invested in a very profitable industry, which could become even more rewarding with our active involvement.
Damn.
He explained that the companies we worked for had invested millions into the building of privately owned prisons, and that our positions of influence in the music industry would actually impact the profitability of these investments. Then he says, I remember many of us in the group immediately looking at each other in awe and confusion. At the same time, I didn't know what a private prison was, but I wasn't the only one. Sure enough, someone asked what these prisons were and what any of this had to do with music. We were told that these prisons were built by privately owned companies who receive funding from the government based on the number of inmates.
Mm-hmm.
The more inmates, the more the government would pay these prisons.
Mm-hmm.
It was also made clear to us that since these prisons are privately owned, as they become publicly traded, we'd be able to buy shares. Most of us were taken back by this. Again, a couple of people asked what this had to do with us. At this point, my industry colleague who had first opened the meeting took the floor again and answered our questions. He told us that since our employees had become silent investors in this prison business, it was now in their interest to make sure that these prisons remain filled. Our job would be to help make this happen by making music which promote criminal behavior, rap being the music of choice. He assured us that this would be a great situation for us because rap music was becoming an increasingly profitable market for our companies, and as employees, we'd also be able to buy stocks in these prisons. Immediately, silence came over the room. You could have heard a pin drop. I remember looking around to make sure I wasn't dreaming and saw half of the people with dropped jaws. My daze was interrupted when someone shouted, "Is this a fucking joke?" At this point, things became chaotic.
Right.
Two of the men who were part of the Unfamiliar group grabbed the man who shouted and attempted to remove him from the house. A few of us, myself included, tried to intervene. One of them pulled out a gun, and we all backed off. They separated us from the crowd, and all four of us was escorted outside. My industry colleague, who opened up the meeting earlier, hurried out to meet us and reminded us that we had signed an agreement and would suffer the consequences of speaking out about this publicly, or even those who attended the meeting.
Damn.
I asked him, why was he involved with something so corrupt? And he replied, it's bigger than the music business and nothing we can do. And, no, it's bigger than the music business and nothing we want to challenge without risking consequences. We all protested as we walked back into the house. I remember word for word the last thing he said. It's out of my hands now. Just remember you signed an agreement. He then closed the door behind him. The men rushed us to our car and actually waited until we drove off the property.
Damn.
So this meeting, bro.
Now that's a lot for a meeting right there.
Oh yeah, definitely. And this person later on, he said, this person actually ended up leaving the music industry after this happened. A few years after this, he ended up leaving the music industry.
Okay.
And he said he just over the years he just felt guilty because he said as he sat back and he watched these plans come to a reality
Over 2 decades.
he sat back and was like, wow, they really pulled it off.
Yeah.
They really pulled this off. He was like, they were told not to sign any more political rappers, any more rappers that had messages in their music.
No positivity.
It was all to be gangster rap music that they promoted and put out.
So if you wonder where
And this
Brand
was
Nubians
before
went,
us.
if you wonder where Brand Nubians went, where Poor Righteous Teachers went, where Public Enemy went, where KRS-One went, and all sorts of groups like that was talking,
Yeah.
even Queen Latifah and Moni Love and those, what I'm saying?
Everybody.
It's a back door.
Yeah, anything that was harmless, fun rap, anything that had a message in it had to go.
Yeah, that's
You know
why
what I'm
if you
saying?
even notice though, now
And we talk about that all the time.
even be brief with it, you know what I'm saying? Those charms that came out like maybe 1988, 89, the African charms, those they lasted for about 2 years and they disappeared real quick, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely,
Quickly.
definitely. Now, after reading all this, it actually made me feel a few different ways. The first emotion I felt was shocked because I was definitely taken back by this, just knowing the level of evil that's involved by even thinking of a plan like this. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? The second emotion I felt was anger. Anger because it's not enough for them to exploit our culture and make all the money off of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's keep it real, the industry has never been favorable towards the artist. Never. But they're going to go beyond the artist to get the artist to influence and lure in the consumer, which they knew at the time were mainly minorities.
Yep.
In other words, keep promoting gangster rap so that the youngsters will be influenced by them, which in turn will incite them to want to act like them, and it's a very good chance they'll end up in their prison.
Yeah.
So they're getting paid twice. They're getting paid from the artists they signing, and then they're getting paid from the people that these artists influence that goes to prison trying to be like these artists.
Now you see what they're doing. They purposely making money off us through this music. Satan is on a roll, and that's how he has our minds. That is how he has our minds. So let me give you. So when they brought up the situation about the prison systems, now pay attention. He said this happened in 1991. Now, if you go back and look at all these conscious and political rappers that we had, their music stopped around that time, around 1991. Now, if they did try to come back with an album later on in the 2000s, it didn't really hit on that. So, so your people like he named, like Queen Latifah, and your KRS-One, and your Chuck D, and Public Enemy, all these people is making, even Poor Righteous Teachers making all this conscious rap and all this conscious rap, these political this political music, the stuff that help us learn, and they stopped that. They stopped it around the time they had that meeting in 91 with them prison and talking about getting these prisons together. And so do your research. You're gonna go back and you look at albums. And watch when those albums stop coming out, when they last great album come out. Like I said, you may see some that might have done something later on down the line, but it ain't hit like the ones back then, so you got to pay attention. All right, and then another thing you got to look at, they trying to get our kids to get locked up in prison. They trying to get, us to listen to this music, to inspire them to go out here and hustle and sell drugs and become gangbangers and fill the prisons up. That's why, like I said, a lot of these prisoners, that's why a lot of these people are getting in trouble and spending more time in prison for small cases, for small things. Like, why'd you put in about 7 years or a couple bags of weed? I mean, stuff like that. But pay attention. Our generation My generation, was the last generation, our parents used to whoop our tail. That's why a lot of us ain't eating the food. But the ones under us are. Why? When did they stop us from, when did whooping our children become illegal? 91. We could no longer whoop our kids in 91. When they stopped that music, and you know if you don't whoop your kids, they become chaotic. They become out of line. They become harder to control. Now, some of us still sneak and whoop our kids. I whoop mine. Now, I was like, look, let me tell you something. Go on to call social service. They're going to put your butt in a foster home. You're going to be around a bunch of folks that you don't want to be with. That's on you. You chose to go there. I'm whooping your tail because I love you. But if you want to go ahead and call the police on me so they can take you to a foster home and you can be in the system, go ahead. By all means, go ahead and do your thing. You know what I mean? That's how I scare my child. You know what I mean? You want to, yeah, go on call them because I'm going to still whoop your tail. But a lot of us don't. But a lot of us do still whoop our children. But that's what they want. They want it to be illegal. So our kids can be out of line and hard to deal with. That's why we losing so many of them. That's why our kids are being locked up. We still got people in our generation still getting locked up too. They just can't resist selling drugs. And that's that mind control Satan has of us. And he's getting off on it. And we coming up with excuses on why we doing it. We got to feed our daughter. That's a dumb excuse. That's the excuse Satan wants you to use so he can keep you in this world. You know what I mean? Keep you in this world. Where God told you not to focus on the things in this world, if you rely on him, then he would have made sure your family would have been eating. But we don't do that because, God don't move fast enough for us. We need that quick money. But he tried to teach us patience, and we don't want to learn it. And then we go out here and do these things on our own, and then get ourselves caught up in prison and got our kids killed or somebody else killed. Your kids growing up hustling like you. Now some of them dead. You know what I mean? Or you let them be gang bangers, gang members. All this stuff is set up. This gang banging stuff. I'm going to get on that later, but right now I'm just going to stay on this music. And that's why they do it. So that's why they stop making conscious rap. That's why they don't want our kids to hear anything that's going to make them want to do right. They want them to hear stuff that's going to make them do wrong so they can fill those prisons up. See, that's what I'm trying to get you guys to understand. This is the reason why God keeps telling us don't conform to this world. If you're a friend of this world and you're an enemy of him, this is why he's trying to tell you this stuff. He's trying to tell you that Satan is creating this world and everything that we do to set us up to fail. To set us up, to keep us from God so we can follow him right into the pit of hell. Because that is what's going to happen. And I'm talking about in everything we do. Everything that's involved in this world is ran by Satan. That's why I keep telling you guys, we should not be celebrating Christmas. Christmas is not in the Bible. We should not be celebrating Easter. Easter is not in the Bible. All these things came from Satan. And a lot of people, he Christian, he Catholic. Catholics are satanic. The Roman Catholic Church is satanic. They're the only church that was molesting kids half the time. You know what I mean? So they are satanic. Do your research on them. Do your research them in the Bible. They always been satanic. And they the ones that changed a lot of the laws. They are the ones that made Christmas and try to connect it to Jesus. And what we do, we follow suit instead of reading the word. Instead of going into Christ, we built these traditions. We created this. We helped create this. Because we don't read the word. And that's what Satan banks on. To him, we're a bunch of idiots. Because we're falling for every little thing that we see. It's always what we see. And it's beyond that. This is a spiritual warfare. The Bible says we're fighting against principalities, but we don't believe that. We believe we're fighting in the physical. You know what I mean? Everything that's going on in this world, from education to voting, they are trying to run us. They are conditioning us for the new world order, and we're too blind to see it. This is the reason why God has been trying to warn us. He has been trying to protect us. But even with this video, it ain't even just me that share this information. So many people out here who God has used to share these things with people for them to learn, but a lot of them ain't gonna pay attention to this stuff. A lot of them ain't gonna listen because that's Bible prophecy. It has to be fulfilled. It's gonna be people lost. That is just in the Bible. That's why the Bible says many are called, but only a few are chosen. Because if you look at it, that few are chosen makes sense because majority of the world celebrate Christmas, knowing that's basically an abomination against God. But so many of us, we have kids and we don't want to, oh, I want to take the Christmas from the kids. You care more about that than following the Bible, than following God's laws. And that's what's going to make you lost. And when it's judgment time, he's going to bring this up to your attention. I have sent people out here that told you that Christmas and these holidays that you're celebrating, that you're connecting to me and my son. I told you, I sent people to tell you that it was an abomination, that it angers me, and you refused to listen because you was determined to get your children some Christmas gifts. You was determined to follow tradition. I let you know this, and you ignored it. And the next thing you're going to hear is, depart from me, you worker of iniquity. Just remember this. And don't think you can work your way around it. You can't. If it's against God, we should not be doing it. And that's what we're doing. And everything I tell you guys is like I said, it's conditioning us for the new world order. All this music, everything is about money. These people are making money. You know why they invested into these prisons and knew that, and they was confident that they was going to keep that 90% capacity rate? Because they know we're weak. They know we don't educate ourselves. They know we're not going to listen. And Satan is going to try it and see if we're going to listen, just like he tried it with Job. He went to God and said, I bet you, because a lot of people, the devil was trying to tell God is that Job is only serving you because you done gave him all these riches. Because that's why a lot of people be claiming, they love God. I think God, God, they gave him all this riches. So he said, if I take all these riches from him, watch he turn against you. But God knew Job was faithful. So he let him try. Do you? So he took all this stuff from him. And all 10 of his kids died. He lost all of his riches. He lost his health for a little bit. Everybody but Job turned their back on God. You need to curse God for what he did to you. He still didn't. What happened? God gave him a double back. He got 10 new set of kids. He got even more than he ever had, that he had before. You see what I'm saying? Because of that faith. But that ain't going to stop Satan from trying you. If he try you and it works, then he's going to keep it going. And that's what he did with us when he got these men to float these drugs up in here. And then when he saw that was making the money, let's make more money off the prison system. They make $1.8 billion a year from the prisons. And a lot of them are drug charges. A lot of them is because they're listening to this gangster rap and this drug rap. And now you see that a lot of the people that do the gangster rap are younger. They 16 and 18 years old doing all these songs now. Because they don't know. They see money. Oh, I'm about to get rich. They offer them this sweet Godfather deal. And they take it. But the generation now, these older cats, these older heads that did their conscious rap, they ain't falling for that stuff no more. That's why that's why they're going towards the young people. That's why they're going towards this generation, because they're going to fall for it. These older people, these older rappers, they own to it now. You know what I mean? So, again, pay attention to what Satan is doing to us in this world, and understand why God said don't conform to it. Understand why he said don't be a friend to it. Understand these things. You guys are not paying attention to what they're doing to us. Everything that we do is to distract us from God. That's why, and the fact that black people are the weakest of them all, that's why it affects us the most. That's why everybody looking at it as a race saying, oh, they trying to take the black man down. No, they just know we're the weakest individuals. We have the weakest minds. We don't educate ourselves. And why not take advantage of the weakest person? Why not take advantage of the weakest group? You can't knock them. Why you think they put an ABC store on every corner in the black neighborhood? You go somewhere like Beverly Hills and all these different neighborhoods, these white neighborhoods, and you don't see no ABC store. Because they ain't going to spend all their money on the ABC store like black folks do. That's all we think about is getting turned up. You know what I mean? But that's going to be another story, because then on the next part, I'm going to get into the health system. On how Satan controls the health system. And I'm pretty sure you guys have an idea. But I'm going to get into the person that started it and why we're going through what we're going through. So, with that being said, again, I hope this bless your soul. If you have any questions or anything, you want to share, you can hit me up on Messenger. Again, I don't debate, so do not put any clips, any comments debating or saying somebody you don't agree. I have no problem with you disagreeing. You know what I mean? But like I said, do it in love, just not on my page. If you want to show that you disagree on some or some you don't understand, reach out to me on Messenger. I don't debate. You're not going to use my post to discourage people from going to Christ. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm not saying I'm a know-it-all. The things I post is for you to search on your own. I always back it up with scriptures, and the scriptures for this video clip is in part 1. So you can go back and watch that. So you can get a better understanding on why God say don't conform, and why he said this world, the entire world, this whole world is ran by the evil one. He didn't say half the world, didn't say some of it, he said the whole world. So if the whole world is ran by the evil one, that means he controls every aspect of this world, everything in this world, from the education to medical to the government to anything we do, everything we touch, everything we buy, the banks, the restaurants, all these are ran by Satan. That's why we don't supposed to be focused on it. So again, part 3 will get more into the health system and the banking system. The future. It will get into the Bitcoin situation, the COVID, and all that. So be on the lookout for part 3. Guys, have a great day. Love you.